Hello, my loves. Welcome to your weekly ISO Tarot reading. It's Marae again from Yin and Juice. Thank you for joining me. Apologies that the reading this week is a day late. I did need to take the weekend for myself to recharge and rejuvenate. I'd had a pretty hectic week, so it was better for me to get back into a space of presence and grounding before I did a reading for the collective, so that's why there's been a delay. And apologies in advance if you do get some background noise from the outside. There's unfortunately been roadworks happening in the evening, so I'm trying to do this reading in a break that I found with all the noise, so hopefully it holds off during this reading. Okay, without further ado, let's get into the reading. So we're going to use the same spread every week just to kind of check in with the energies. So if we're going to look at what our current theme for this week in ISO is, we have the Page of Swords. So the Page of Swords to me is about ideas coming alive. It's still very much in our heads though. So, you know, it might be a form of communication that we're thinking about. Maybe we're journaling, maybe we're writing letters because, you know, communication now, we're kind of looking at different ways to reconnect with people. For some of you, we're probably re-establishing I guess, a connection with snail mail, you know, maybe sending people cards or letters or whatever, just to brighten someone's day. This could also be a card of thinking about things that we could do with sort of all this mental energy. I think when we're in isolation, we have an abundance of that. And when we don't have the same outlets as we used to, we can go towards things that kind of numb the intellect. But all that does is it kind of parks that energy and it has to come up somewhere, right? Which typically manifests in emotion, because we've kind of got this pent up stuff that's going on. So this week it's about thinking of ways that we can disperse some of this mental energy. So it could be crosswords, Sudoku, you know, looking at ways that we can actually re-engage and expel some of this mental energy so it doesn't sort of accumulate and become overthinking, which can cloud our judgment. So this is also a card about clarity. So maybe something is going to become clear to us this week, which is a much nicer energy than, you know, we've had previously. I feel a little bit more lightness this week in terms of the theme, but we'll see what the other cards have in store. So in terms of our current mindset as a collective, what have we got? The Magician. I love it. So the Magician is all about manifestation, making shit happen. So I think for some of us who've been in isolation for a little while now, I think we're starting to get used to it. And I say that in, you know, quotation marks, because I don't think you can ever quite get used to this unprecedented event. But what I mean is, having done it for a few weeks now, we're finding our own little rhythm or routine within the restrictions and the constraints that have been put upon us. And because of that, we have a little bit more clarity, right, in order to be able to manifest and make things happen. The Magician is fantastic because you can see she's got a pentacle, a sword, a cup, and a wand, and it's because she's got a culmination of all of the suits here because she's resourceful, right? And for a lot of us, we're going back to basics. We're kind of like, okay, well, what do I have? It's more of a focus of what do I have as opposed to what I lack, which is what I love about this card too. It's very empowering. So sometimes it's about, well, how do I entertain myself within the bounds of this house, for example? Or what can I learn, or what can I do, or what can I make, what can I create? And so some of us are probably, you know, baking bread from scratch or making pasta from scratch, learning to cook, learning to sew, just using ways and little bits and bobs that we've got around us in order to sort of propel ourselves forward rather than feeling stuck. So I really love that energy. So in terms of what is potentially clouding this perception, what do we have? We have the Queen of Pentacles. Interesting that we've got her in this position because I love her. She's a great card to have. She's a very grounded energy. She's got her shit together. She's, you know, really conscious of what she does have. And she, again, it's a card that's focused on what we have as opposed to what we lack. And she's very much about self-care, nurturing, and staying really present. And I think the reason why this is in the clouding perception position, if we look at those cards together, it's just a warning for us to not become stuck in this energy. The Queen of Pentacles, as with every card, there's a light and a shadow. You know, there's a duality of a yin and the yang that exists. If we sit too much in this energy, we're stifling our ability to be creative, to do something new, to try something different. She's definitely risk averse, this one, right? So I think because we've got this lovely Magician energy and a new start or a new beginning or new opportunities with the Page, it's just a reminder that yes, maintain self-care, but don't get stuck. Make sure we get some fiery energy. It's a very earthy energy, the Queen of Pentacles, right? Let's get some fire in there. Let's get some emotion in there. Let's just propel things forward and make sure we have an even balance of all of these suits in order to make stuff happen. And now if we look at what some internal influences are, we have the Hermit. I mean, duh. Makes sense. We're indoors a lot. A lot of us, we're either living alone or not able to see our friends as much or our families and things like that. So we're feeling a lot of isolation. And this card is very much about internally focusing and introspective energy. So this is about using this time to really connect with ourselves, to really connect with all those things that we're feeling a little bit uncomfortable about. Because I think a lot of us are now sitting with emotions that we might not be prepared to talk about, or things that are popping up that will be like, what even is this? So it's about examining all of that. I also see the Hermit as a card which is on the pathway to spiritual awakening. So it's almost like, as a collective, the collective consciousness is shifting incredibly, like huge. And to be a part of that wave is granted. It's a given to be part of that. So using this time to kind of go, well, how do I seek a deeper connection with the divine? How do I explore my spirituality? And it's different for everyone because it depends on your belief systems. I'm not necessarily saying that you need to be part of an organized religion, but if that's your belief system, then obviously that's absolutely fine. It could be as simple as thinking, you know what, I've always wanted to read tarot cards and I might buy myself a deck. It's something that helps us connect with that global consciousness that I was talking about, something outside of ourselves, but seeking the answers from within, introspection, journaling, doing some inner work. And I think for a lot of us, that could include potentially some kind of therapy. So it could be spiritual therapy, it could be psychotherapy, whatever that looks like. But I think this is seeking answers, and we can only do that if we examine ourselves from within. So what are some external influences that we have this week? Okay, the Emperor, interesting. So the Emperor is a very masculine energy in terms of a very yang, it's a doer, very stable, very structured. And I think, the reason it's in an external energy is because we don't have a lot of stability right now outside of ourselves. It's kind of like an unknown, and that can feel stifling because the Emperor card, when it's sort of in excess, I guess, with this energy, it can be overbearing, so it's kind of like these structures, these constructs, these things that exist, political systems, corporations, hierarchies, all of these things which we've known to be true that exist outside of us, that's all kind of changing right now. It's shifting. So for us to sort of be a part of that is a little bit daunting, but I think it's exhilarating, right? So it's also a time for us to examine some of those structures and what they mean to us, and how things are going to potentially be different after, we come out of isolation. The world will absolutely look different. These structures will 100% look different. So what's some advice for some healing and peace for this week? The moon. Love it. So the moon, we've got a new moon this week. On Wednesday in the Southern Hemisphere. And the new moon is a perfect time to plant seeds of intention. What do we want? What do we really desire? And what do we really want? Really seek answers from within and manifest them through working with your next lunar cycle, right? The moon can also reveal shadows. It can be a card where we sort of, things are bubbling up that we are uncomfortable with and we want to shy away from. And the moon is asking us to really lean into it and to accept it. And the pathway to acceptance is, the first one is acknowledgement, right? So if something pops up for you, if there's an emotion or if there's an archetype, if there's, a behavior that you don't like, this is a good time to examine it. Don't judge yourself, right? Look into the shadow. Because out of every shadow comes light, and that's where the growth happens. The growth actually happens in the darkness. So this week, we've got lots of opportunity to make shit happen if we actually look within, right? And we've got lots of major arcana cards. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a big week this week. I think there's a shift for a lot of us this week in terms of energetically. So how will life look different after this week for us? Oh, love it. Ace of Pentacles, right? New beginnings, new starts, new abundance. I feel like we are manifesting something, and there is going to be opportunity. For some of us, it could specifically be financial. But for me, Pentacles aren't just about, financial wealth. It's about wealth in your life and what is meaningful to you, what's in your physical reality, and what's important to you that makes you feel wealthy, to be rich in life. And that could be as simple as, your surrounding environment. We're spending so much time at home at the moment that maybe it's about doing a little bit of DIY, zhuzhing the house a little bit, buying yourself some plants or redecorating. That's one way of creating an Ace of Pentacle moment, because it's a new beginning, a new start, it's a new perspective, but it's something that we can control. And I think when we're feeling a sense that some of the options that we have external to us that are being driven by these sort of constructs, can take away our control, how do we use our immediate environment to encourage a bit more of a sense of groundedness, of stability, of beauty? The Pentacles energy is very much like a Taurus. It's very much about engaging all of the senses, making sure that we feel alive. And I think a lot of the times we rely so much on, let's say, sight and, our hearing are two of the biggest ones that we just naturally constantly draw on, and touch, obviously. But, sometimes taste, we don't taste our food as we're eating it. We're just like kind of shoveling it in because we're in a rush. Slow down. Engage all of your senses with everything that you're doing. Take a moment to look up when you're walking and kind of just look at tops of buildings and just things that we don't normally take notice of. It's really a week where we can sort of put some of these things in place to have that sort of fresh perspective on how things are. Okay, well, let's pick. What chakra are we going to work with this week and focus on? Ooh. Release. Yep. You can see this person is pretty bereft, pretty over it. In the rain, in a cemetery. I mean, really, could it get any fucking worse? But let's not get down on ourselves. Let's release. Let's release some of this energy. We've got the Magician working on our side. Our mindset is clear, right? So let's look inside, work on the shadow, and release it. And release our reliance on these constructs, right? I mean, that to me is also about the patriarchy. That's a whole other video. So yes, we're working on some crown chakra stuff to me to release so that we can ascend. You can see in the background of that card, the light is penetrating, the sun is penetrating, the divine is coming through all of this grey for us. And then let's see what flower energy we're going to work. Oh, that one flipped over. Foxglove, confidence. Yes. The Magician is all about confidence. Back yourself this week. Make some changes. Do something nice for yourself. Change shit up around the house, whatever that looks like, in order to draw that Magician energy in and create new beginnings. And for some of you, I'm hoping that Page of Swords actually means that, you're going to embark on that new hobby you've always wanted to do. For me, I started getting singing lessons. Pretty exciting. Impermanence. Hello. What a beautiful way to tie it together. Life is always changing, and I drift easily through those changes, good and bad. As I drift through hard times, I can take comfort in knowing that I will leave them behind. As I drift away from good times, I can take comfort in knowing more will come my way. Impermanence is an equal opportunity non-entity. Exactly. We need to release the need to control too much, to know what's coming next, have confidence, be what you want to see, right? If we want to be the Magician and be resourceful, even though we're being constrained by things external to us, we can do that. We absolutely have the power to do that. And just know that whatever we're experiencing, it is impermanent, it is fleeting, and it might be completely, overwrought to feel whatever emotions that we're feeling. We can feel completely taken over by something. because we're so aroused and anxious and everything's just, you know, the intensity's gone up to 100, right? In order to help ourselves de-arouse, we need to remain present, come back to the breath, back into our body, and realize that it's all impermanent. There is going to be the sun coming through to a brighter future and a brighter day. So I hope you enjoyed your reading, and leave me a comment below, like, share, or subscribe to this channel, and I'll hopefully see you guys next week as well. Okay, bye.